Hello and welcome to Arya. I've been asked a few times to make a what I eat in a day video, and my first thought about my eating habits is that they're not healthy at all. But sure, we'll get into it. Everyone's body is different and there's more to it than just calorie in and calorie out. Of course, there's nutrition, but then there's also our basal metabolic rate and our sensitivity to insulin that can really change how our meals contribute towards our body. I'm just making this as a response to the questions about what I eat in a day, but it's just a vlog. It's not some sort of a recommendation. I'm mostly a vegetarian. I do eat eggs though. I'm quite okay with dairy. I have felt that avoiding dairy actually helps my skin a lot, but I just like dairy too much. Maybe someday I might switch to non-dairy products, but right now I'm just letting it be. I also, because I'm vegetarian, supplement with protein regularly. I just don't like the taste of protein shakes, no matter what kind of protein shake. Like at the end of the day, they still feel like something artificial, I guess. So I do have protein, but I'm not very disciplined about it. So I'll end up doing it every alternate day. More often than not, in the morning, I don't feel like eating anything. So I would just wait till 1 p.m. and then eat my food. So it's usually a 16-hour fast if I do that. For me, like there are just days where I feel like I'm not fasting today, like I would just wake up and be like, today I need food. And sometimes it's because of what I've eaten for dinner, if my dinner's been too light. That's my breakfast, but I do alternate it with intermittent fasting, peanut butter, toast, and then some nuts, some pre-soaked nuts. About 6 months ago, there also used to be a fruit plate with my breakfast, but I'm trying to avoid the insulin spike that you get by having fruits the first thing in the morning. At work, I get my tiffin from home, and around 1 o'clock is when I eat. This is my tiffin that comes from home, and it's got 3 rotis, a little bit of a sabzi, some sort of a wet either sabzi or a dal, so like some sort of a wet hybrid, and then this plain dal, which is just a Gujarati style dal, very little rice, and then a little bit of yogurt. Actually curd, not yogurt. In Gujarati households we call it RDBS. Roti, dal, bhat, shak. Essentially it's a standard Gujarati thali like meal that I have every single day for lunch. And again, it's a transition from what I used to have about 2-3 years ago, but it was similar, like Indian food for lunch as a standard template. I get home sometimes by 7, sometimes by 8. Meals are usually at around 8, 8:30. That's my dinner time. It's always something different, something interesting. So while my lunch is always a consistent situation, my dinner is always something fun. Some days it could be pani puri for dinner, literally, like pani puri and a few other chaat items, which my North Indian side of the family might not fully like digest because for us that would be more like an evening snack, but I've really embraced it as a dinner concept now, and it's actually quite fun to have it for dinner. I think it's pretty cool. Sometimes it could be utma, sometimes it could be dosa and idli with sambar and chutney, of course. It could be pullas, we call them chillas. Sometimes it's a toasty, which would be like a grilled sandwich with a lot of vegetables inside. Sometimes it's just grilled vegetables, like sort of shallow fried, slightly steamed and fried in a little bit of oil. Sometimes we would have theplas for dinner and yogurt, and sometimes we'll have khichdi and dal. And so every night the dinner can be anything. Yeah, that's what I eat in the day. This is my standard what I eat in the day situation most of the year. What I do once in a while is go out with friends and eat, and that just changes things, but I try to limit that to twice a month at most. And a lot of times there are social events that you go for and there's food served there, but I try to eat beforehand at home and then go for these social events where I would just nibble a little, but it wouldn't be much of a break from my food routine. I have a version of the diet that I used to have when I was in Miss India, and I actually still probably have that laminated diet chart somewhere. I'll probably post that in a different video when I find it, but it was not much different from what I have over here. So like there the breakfast would start with some poha, there'll be 2 chapatis for every meal, and dinner was also a chapati situation, and then there was some I remember there was green tea with a Marie biscuit as an evening snack. These days I just avoid any cookies or any kind of, like, I try to avoid sugar as much as possible, but I do let myself, and this is where I feel that your insulin sensitivity and your metabolic rate comes in the picture, because for me, I can get away with having slightly higher than average sugar and it doesn't really, I'm sure some of my muscle mass has something to contribute to it, but for me, I don't feel like my body immediately responds to sugar in a way that my weight becomes out of control. I do have a sweet tooth. I avoid bringing sweets at home altogether so that I'm not tempted. But if I'm out and if I see dessert that's just laid out, I won't mind having dessert, and especially if it's jalebi, like all kinds of desserts I can still show some control over. But if you give me a plate of jalebis, and like not one jalebi but like 6 jalebi pieces, I'm gonna eat them all. You give me 20 jalebi pieces, I'll probably still eat 80% of it. So yeah, sugar in my case doesn't really affect me too much, and I'm lucky. Ice cream again doesn't affect me too much, but if I have this giant like family size tub of ice cream, I do, like, it's probably just in my head, but I feel like I gain half a kg for every giant tub of ice cream that I finish all by myself. Obviously it's not healthy and I shouldn't do it, but like there are moments when I just slip, and that doesn't happen very regularly, but when it does, ice cream definitely is one of those things that my body reacts to very quickly, both in terms of my mood but also in terms of how I feel like I've put on weight. And then the next few days, then I would try to intermittent fast a lot and work out a lot and like burn higher than average to sort of get back to my baseline weight. Now I don't think I've ever struggled with an eating disorder, but I do think growing up, like I didn't enjoy food as much. So like I just naturally had a propensity to not eat too much growing up. But I have seen enough people who do not eat a lot and yet they are not able to get a grip on their weight. And a lot of times it's because of some underlying health conditions, sometimes not even because of an underlying health condition or medication, but also just simple insulin resistance. So like a lot of people who are pre-diabetic, or not even pre-diabetic, but like right at the threshold, they do struggle with weight. And I have heard, and again, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not the best person to answer those questions, but I've heard that gaining muscle helps in those cases, and certain like discipline around how you time your meals, the quantity that you eat. I've heard that if you lose weight, some of your insulin resistance gets better. But again, I'm not a doctor and I have fortunately not struggled with that, so I'm no one to comment on it. My protein intake kind of goes hand in hand with my workouts. On the days that I work out, I definitely make sure that I have at least 1, if not 2 scoops of protein. Even in the evening, like how back in the days there used to be a Marie biscuit with green tea that was suggested. Now I try to just have a protein shake in the evening if I'm hungry. But again, like, there are mixed opinions on it. My parents would be like, oh, you're spoiling your kidneys. But for me, I feel like I think we are a little deficient on protein as vegetarians. So having whey protein isolates kind of helps me keep myself full, get my protein intake, but also keep my weight in check and get some good muscle situation out of it. I do Pilates thrice a week, and I do a little bit of treadmilling at least twice a week. And I did a lot of functional training in the past. Currently, I'm not able to take out so much time for Pilates plus treadmilling plus functional, but I think in the next 1 or 2 months I'll get that act together as well and introduce at least 1, if not 2 days of functional training to my current routine. And yeah, that's all about it. I hope this helped answer any questions that you may have had, and I can make some add-on videos that will talk about variations to these meals, including some student-friendly meals. I really want to make one video with Diya very soon, especially something that can talk about meals in your 20s, especially if you're living away from home and you cannot, like my meals right now are very elaborate because I have help getting my meals together. But say if you're a student who's on a student budget and living all by yourself, how do you get your nutrition right? And how do you like do it in a way that occupies the least amount of time or the least amount of people management, in case you have people doing stuff for you? And that could be a separate video. I have, of course, lived through a lot of those experiences as well, and my usual way of dealing with it was to ensure that I'm just hitting my macros and taking a lot of health supplements in addition to my macros to ensure that there's nothing micronutrient wise that is left behind. And yeah, that's it. See you.